Hi, folks. A very warm welcome to season 4, episode 14 of the Lemons and Pineapples podcast with me, Emma O'Brien. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about how understanding your attachment style can change the way you love. So, you guys are coming down a rabbit hole with me that I have been going down for the past month or so with my shamanic soul retrieval work, taking me into inner child work, which I shared last week in the podcast, which takes me into how do we step into our power, especially as women. I shared in a couple of episodes back about the witch wound. So I want to share with you another book. I read a lot, in case you hadn't noticed, which is called Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. I've put a link in the show notes to this book. If you are somebody who struggles in romantic relationships, I am going to pretty much order you to get hold of this book and listen to it because it's going to give you a massive understanding of why things are the way they are and some amazing tools to be able to shift and change how you relate to your romantic partner. So, what I'm sharing here today is gleaned from their book. So, I'll give them absolute full credit for this. So, do go and check out that book. So, attachment styles really talk to how in romantic relationships, our challenges often come from our innate attachment styles, which is the way we approach closeness, intimacy, and independence. And understanding your attachment style will help you to change the way you show up in relationships. It might change the relationship you decide to be in, and it'll help you have a deeper understanding of you. This has been a theme that is coming up. It is the theme of self-development and personal growth work is understanding yourself better makes life so much easier because you know yourself better. You know what being authentic means to you. You know who you are and what you want. And I think that is just so important. It's that self-awareness and that self-knowledge which allows us to move through the world more confidently because you know who you are, you know what you like and what you don't like, you know where your pitfalls are, you know where your growth edges are, you know where your zones of genius and brilliance are, and you can own those. Often when we're especially in romantic relationships, we try and shift and change ourselves to fit in with other people. I need to be like this to be loved, or oh, it's so boring. I mean, really, we just need to start owning and being ourselves and standing in our power and standing in who we are and accepting that not everyone's going to like that and maybe they're not for us. And then maybe if we are our authentic selves, we might attract the person who really loves us as we are, which is all most of us are seeking. But self-awareness and self-knowledge is where it begins. So allow me to take you on a bit of a journey here. So attachment style says that we are all wired for connection, even though some of us, me, pretend that actually we're not, and maybe we can be self-sufficient and brilliant on our own, and maybe we don't need anybody else. Unfortunately, we do. We are wired to connect up with other people. We're wired for community. We're wired for friendship and romantic relationships and family. We are safer that way. We are wired to be able to depend on other people and for other people to be able to depend on us. But I talked last week about inner child stuff. Often in childhood, our attachment styles start to be shaped by the messaging we get from caregivers. And Amir Levine and Rachel Heller posited that there are three key attachment styles, and you can see which one you fall into. If you want to know more, like I've said, their book, there's some quizzes in the book that'll help you determine, but you might be able to figure out from what I share with you which attachment style you are. There are also quizzes to help you understand your partner's attachment style. And if you have a great relationship with somebody, they might even take the quiz with you. How about that? So, the three main attachment styles are secure, anxious, and avoidant. A person who has got a secure attachment style will feel comfortable with closeness and independence. They trust easily, communicate openly, and can rely on their partner and themselves. They don't fear abandonment. They don't feel smothered in relationship, and they have an innate knowing that they are worthy of love and they can offer it freely. And they know that even if they're not in relationship, there's a bajillion people out there who are going to love them. There is a confidence in their own lovability. In relationships, they are warm, dependable, consistent, and emotionally available. Think no game playing. What a win. Someone who has an anxious attachment style craves connection, but often fears rejection or abandonment. Anxiously attached people often overanalyze messages. They constantly seek reassurance. They might worry when a partner feels distant or pulls away. And this hypervigilance comes from early experiences where love felt unpredictable or inconsistent. So in relationship, anxiously attached people can seem clingy or needy, but what they're really wanting is safety and emotional attunement from other people because they aren't able to give that to themselves. It isn't something that has been modeled for them. Avoidant attachment people, which is I think probably where I fall on the slide of the scale. Avoidant attached people value independence above all else, and they often equate intimacy with a loss of control or freedom. So they might withdraw when things get too close, struggle to express their needs adequately, or downplay their emotions. And this often stems from early experiences where vulnerability wasn't safe or emotions were dismissed. So if you've been taught from an early age that, don't cry, hold it all together, you need to just you need to be quiet and in control in the corner, chances are you might have a little bit of an avoidant attachment style. And in relationship, people with an avoidant attachment style can be distant or detached, even when they care very deeply. So Amir and Rachel said from their studies, statistically speaking, 50% of the population are securely attached, and around 25% are anxious and 25% are avoidant, and the figures aren't exactly that. And then there's a very tiny percentage of people who are avoidant, anxious, attached people. So the combination of the two others, a bit complicated, but there aren't very many people walking around who are avoidant, anxious, attachment people. You can start to have an awareness of your own attachment style and then start to do, which is something I talk about often as well, to recognize what triggers you. And by that, I mean, lean into when I feel triggered by something, what are the thoughts that start to occur in my mind? How does my thinking process? What's happening in my mind? What am I thinking about? What thoughts am I thinking? Where in your body do you feel an emotion that accompanies this trigger? So this is your attachment system being activated. So anxiously attached people have a highly sensitive attachment system. So it doesn't take very much for theirs to be activated. And avoidant people have an attachment system, but it is not quite as heightened as an anxiously attached person. So you can start to think, if you're an anxiously attached person, for instance, and you've just started seeing somebody, maybe they don't message you back straight away. What happens for you? What is the thought process that happens? Is it, oh my God, maybe they don't like me anymore. Maybe I need to just check in. Maybe it's a rising sense of panic. Where is it? Because if you can start to, rather than allow the trigger to drive your behavior, which would for an anxiously attached person would be, I need to create a way to get in touch with this person to just check what's happening here because I don't feel very safe. Can you sit in that discomfort and just take a beat for a moment and just sit with what is actually happening for me here? When we don't allow our triggers to drive us all the time, we're back in control of our own behavior. Because what often happens with anxiously attached people is they can become very overbearing for partners. And the other thing that Amir and Rachel talk about is that very often when relationships are dysfunctional, it's because an anxious person is in relationship with an avoidant person. So you can only imagine when you're very anxiously attached, if you try and start being clingy with somebody who's avoidant, they're going to want to run away. And then there's going to be a push-pull dynamic the whole time, which is really unhealthy for everybody. So if you can start to have an awareness of your triggers, you can go, okay, there's an opportunity for me to do some work here. I talked last week about inner child healing. This is where that work starts to come into play, when you can recognize what's triggering you, recognize what's happened, and do your own inner work to do some healing. If you are an avoidant person, your triggers are going to be somebody says they really like you and you think, oh, I really like them back, but oh, what if I get into this relationship and then I don't want to be it anymore and I can't get out of it? And what if they don't let me go and do the things that I want to do? It's a fear of a loss of autonomy. And you can sit with, where does that come from? Which bit of me requires some attention to start to lean into the fact that actually it's safe for me to depend on somebody else? Because that's fundamentally, if we want independence and autonomy all the time, we don't believe it's safe to rely on other people. That's certainly been the pattern that I have played out and uncovered, and it's healing work I'm working on. So there are a few things we can do to shift into doing our work to shift into a secure attachment style, which of course is a much better and easier place to be. Nervous system regulation. I talk about this often. I teach heart math. When you can learn to regulate the nervous system response you have and to calm it on demand, or listen to it and go, okay, what's really happening here? Rather than being driven to behave in a particular way by it, you put yourself back in the driving seat. Honestly and openly communicating your needs with somebody else is the way that you allow a relationship to move forward and progress. Not mind reading, not making assumptions, not thinking that person did a certain thing, that must mean this. Ask them. Communicate your needs, talk about your feelings, but that requires you being able to understand them and articulate them yourself. So the work starts with you, always. Sorry. Being coached, it is a process doing this work, and I am here for this work because I love it, because it's so transformational. And choosing emotionally available partners. And really being honest with yourself, if you are someone who is anxious or avoidant, am I in seeking relationship with somebody because I really like this person, or am I seeking relationship because I'm lonely? Am I seeking relationship with this person because I don't want to be, I don't feel like I can be on my own? Are you in relationship genuinely, or are you looking to have some need met by somebody else that you perhaps need to meet for yourself before you get into a relationship with somebody? That is, it requires a lot of courage to reflect in that way with yourself. But when you do, and you're able to be okay as you are and be your authentic self, you can take that to relationship. Having a secure partner, if you are anxious or avoidant, is incredible for co-regulating your anxiety or your avoidance. Secure people are often like a kind of a grounding presence. And you're going to have a secure person is going to say to you, I don't want to deal with your behavior. This is not for me. Or invite you to step up and do some work and support you in that. So the best outcome, according to this book, is for a secure person to be in, well, a secure person with a secure person is probably the best outcome that we'd all like to seek, because that's probably where all the stability is. But let's face it, we're all walking through the world with our wounds everywhere. So that's not necessarily going to be the reality. But if you're in relationship with a secure person, you are more likely to be able to lean into doing your healing work and feel safe in the process. Please go and get this book if relationships are a challenge for you. It is so interesting I've been listening to it on Audible in the car. But I would love, if you've read this book, I'd love to hear from you. If this is something that's resonated, I'd love to hear from you. You can pop me a message on the show notes, or you can pop me a DM on Instagram. It's at Emma O'Brien Coach. Happy healing. I am here if you would like to talk about how coaching might be able to support you in your healing journey. You can also just book a free connection call via the show notes as well. I'm really excited for where I take you in the next episode with this. So much exciting self-discovery happening behind the scenes here for me as well. So thank you for being with me. I've really enjoyed it. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.